Joining us now, Larry Brown. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning, David. How you doing?
I'm doing really good. Thank you for joining us here at Crispelli's.
Yeah, this is great. This is a great addition to this shopping center. They actually redid this whole place outside, all the way from the stones to everything in here. And this is a beautiful place. It's a great restaurant. I eat here a lot.
Well, and it is now right in front of the new Orchard Lake Boulevard that you have had a very, very big part in over several years. Tell us the story. Just go back to the very beginning, and maybe one of the guys can adjust your microphone a little bit so we can get a little bit closer to your mouth there. And tell us the story a little bit, or from beginning to end. We got plenty of time about how this whole thing started. Why we need it, and to the extent that you want, I know it's a big question to start with, but how we got to where we are today, Larry Brown.
Well, I came into this a little bit after the fact. I moved out here 31 years ago and learned about the the Northwestern Connector Project. What had happened in prior years is that they had talked about trying to extend Northwestern right through the heart of West Bloomfield. And there was a group of people that got together, Lauren McEwen and a few others, and said, no, we do not want to cut the township in half. So it never was developed to stop. Northwestern stopped at Orchard Lake Road, which means that you had a lot of traffic that would come up and then all of a sudden had nowhere to go. So over the years, Brent Bear, who was the charge of the Oakland roads, came up with a project with their engineers that was called the Northwestern Connector Project, which was supposed to run from 14 Mile Road up Orchard Lake Road, across Maple, over to Haggerty. And what was supposed to happen is that there was supposed to be a number of roundabouts put in, and there was to be a boulevard built along. Originally, up Orchard Lake Road was supposed to be 3 lanes, north and south, and then 2 lanes going east and west on Maple in order to move the traffic. It didn't really work out well. We didn't want to have that much of a road out here because it would have encroached into the easements on the side. It would have made a lot of problems here. So in 1999, the Road Commission came up with the first concept, and they held, I don't know if we on TV too? Or?
We are.
Okay.
We are.
So the Northwestern Connector Project, which is this book here, as you can notice how thin it is. I was on the Planning Commission back at that time and went there and said, I'm not so sure about all of this because it was going to accelerate traffic and make things very difficult through West Bloomfield. And I know you had talked about some of the pedestrian problems that might have arisen. So this was kind of worked on for a number of years. It didn't really come back to us till about 2005. And in 2005, they came up with a book that got to be this thick.
You must have a room at your house with a lot of paperwork in it.
I do.
Very, very big file cabinet.
Yeah.
And pull all this stuff here today.
Yeah, and in this it showed the entire, how it was all going to, what it was going to look like, all of the initial roundabouts and everything that was going to take place.
And again, when was that big package developed, this big one right here?
This was presented actually in 2001. This is the 2001 edition, I call it. And they asked for input from the community. We had meetings. We talked about this. It was over the Parks and Rec. They showed us what it would look like as we went along, and a lot of the input that was put in really didn't go anywhere. Just the county needed to have this done a certain way. So as time went on, we formed a road committee.
So let me just understand. The county came to the township and said, here's our plan. Here's the way it's got to be done. And if I'm reading you right, and I hope I'm not interrupting, the township said, hey, wait a minute, we want to have a little input on this too, and that slowed things down a little bit.
That's correct.
Okay.
The township had agreed at one time for some of this to be taking place, most of it, and that was the board before I was on. I was on the board 9 years ago when we came on, and the prior board had agreed to certain things, including a roundabout at Maple and Orchard Lake Road, which a lot of people were very upset about. So what happened is we developed a road committee, and we started meeting with the Oakland County Road Commission and had dozens and dozens of meetings. And we talked about various things as to input of what was up and down here on Orchard Lake
But
Road.
did it go pretty well, or was it like Republicans and Democrats trying to agree on something?
It was more like Republicans and Democrats. It was very, very difficult.
We're all friends today. I know.
I know.
But it's good to get the history.
Yeah, and there was a lot of things that happened, and Richard Barr, who was also on the road committee, and I spoke, and we said, we have a problem. If we put a roundabout at Maple and Orchard, how are people going to cross the road safely? So he and I put together a meeting with Richard Bernstein's office and said, what do you think about how getting people across these roads, and what can we do?
Well, wasn't it Richard Bernstein who had so much impact on the roundabouts that we do have, and it resulted in having the lights and the assisted systems for those that are blind and hearing impaired, and even those of us that can see and hear, just making it possible for us to execute a pedestrian move across a roundabout. That was Richard, right?
Well, Richard sent one of his associates to us, but Richard did get involved, and it was under the federal, handicap. I don't remember what it was, but it was. They said, "Look, we can't leave it the way it is. It's way too dangerous. Roundabouts, traffic can continue to flow at all times, and if a pedestrian wants to get across, there's almost no way to do that." So, the road commission came back and said, "Okay, fine. We're going to try a couple different ways of putting in signals," and they tore apart the Drake and the Maple for better part of 7 figures and put in the signals that are there, and they also put another different type over at Maple and Farmington, which didn't tear up the intersection but actually put some things out there. And
well, it might have been painful getting there, Larry, but I just get, from one person's opinion, I could tell you from now, and I know we could talk about roundabouts all day, and I don't think everybody would agree, but just from my opinion, the roundabout and the result that they have, what they're building now, the roundabout at 14 and Orchard, is the traffic flow through there is so much better than it used to be. That was a traffic disaster because of the light at Northwestern, the light at 14. They were never synchronized right. You could only get a couple of cars between those two lights, so you get through one and then you stop and then you get through the other, and then at rush hour that traffic would back up for a half a mile. It was terrible. And I could also tell you from walking and riding my bike through the roundabout that with all the signage and everything they have there, it's really very pedestrian and cyclist friendly. I don't know if everyone would agree with me, but it might have been painful getting there, but I think you ended up in a good spot.
Well, yeah, although the roundabout itself is really small. It's a very, very tight roundabout.
Well, you could have never done that at Maple and Orchard.
No. And so, and I'll come back to that. But at 14 Mile Road, it was a fight between West Bloomfield, Farmington, and Oakland County. Farmington really wanted that roundabout. We at West Bloomfield didn't need it.
Didn't want it. Okay.
So we were kind of pushed into this, and we had to put some of our dollars to it. And
well, now that I like it, do I get to keep my job?
Well, sure you can, but
okay.
Don't try to get through that intersection at around 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, because it backs up something terrible.
All right.
So anyways, what happened is as the years went on, and we talked about the roundabout up here at Maple and Orchard, we talked, I went and I knocked on a lot of doors along, Marshall got some input, and everybody kind of got what was the flavor of what was going to go on if we did that. And there are a lot of negatives from the people who had businesses here. So we kind of worked out we had an engineer come along. I had suggested pretty close to what we have there now, a double left turn lane north to west on Maple and some other things. And it wound up that we needed to pay for it, but we put the intersection in the way it is without a roundabout. And I have found that I have had no negative input.
Yeah, people are honking into the saying hello. Yeah. That's okay.
That I have had no
negative.
Nothing negative.
Moving. Can I jump ahead? Are you happy with what we have there right now?
I'm very happy with the way that came out.
I am too. I like it.
And with Maple and how that's coming along, I would have wished it was a boulevard, but traffic moves. They're putting bike lanes in on some of the places. Over on 14 Mile Road, they put bike lanes, and the 13 Mile.
That double lane move from Orchard Lake Boulevard to Maple westbound is
Right.
huge, because that was a bottleneck, and it always would be a bottleneck. You take all that traffic coming off the Northwestern Highway, realizing a lot of it has got to continue west. It's all going to dump. A lot of it's going to dump onto Maple, some onto
Right.
14 Mile Road, and maybe some of the other mile roads, Walnut Lake and whatnot. But most of it is going to dump onto Maple, and to then bottleneck all that traffic, the multiple lanes of Northwestern, the multiple lanes of Orchard Lake Road into one left-hand turn lane. It makes no sense. And having the double left-hand turn lanes and that light managed as well as it does in that
Right.
intersection, and it doesn't seem to take up a ton of property. We still have the businesses on the corners. I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, we're very happy with it. The people who are involved with it, I can tell you, I was on that committee. I'm extremely satisfied at how it's working out, and I think the businesses are happy because it would have taken away how people came, and the egress would have been much different to them.
Larry Brown, let's talk about the boulevard itself. Larry Brown, by the way, former West Bloomfield Township Trustee, joining us here. We're at Crispelli's. I'm Dave Scott. You're listening to 89.3 WBLD, the all-new Lakes FM. We're recording this today for broadcast on Civic Center TV. You may be watching it on Civic Center TV in the days past. So, Larry, why Boulevard? How did we get to a boulevard? And talk a little bit about why we have a boulevard here and what the benefit of that is for our community.
Well, the boulevard will move traffic quicker, safer. The problem we were having before without the boulevard is that people were going across and trying to make left turn lanes. There were numerous accidents. People were riding the left turn lanes and running into accidents. So it was really two reasons. One was moving the traffic better into safer. That's the key, is the safety of the boulevard, how it's been put in. And the way now you make your left-hand turns is a Michigan left-hand turn. You come out, you make a right to go to make a left, and you make the turnaround. And it is, although the businesses have suffered along this corridor for probably more than a year, because they did suffer when the 14 Mile Road intersection was done. I think that this should improve it. I think that the lighting that's coming will improve it in the evening hours.
And we were talking to Marshall about that. The new lighting we're going to have here, it really looks nice too. It improves the vision, the safety, and the aesthetics. Larry, let's talk about some of these developments here. I don't know how this happened, but we had a lot of developments. They would pop up development by development, and I'm sure all the township officials, as they popped up over the years, did the best they could to make the traffic flow in and out of each one of these developments. But the mall here at Maple and Orchard happened first. Some of these additional clusters of businesses happened later. We ended up with this sub-road that it was never really built to the same standards as Orchard Lake Road and was always full of potholes. And I felt like I was putting my life in jeopardy trying to get out into Orchard Lake Road. And then you had a 2-lane, 4-lane highway, and then you had two more highways that were running on the side that, none of it really made long-term sense. And you can understand how we got there, because those were all made to service short-term problems and short-term development plans. But man, when it all came together collectively, it was a terrible mess.
Yeah, those little side roads were pretty dangerous, but it did give you the access to back and forth to the places. Now you have to pull out onto Orchard Lake and back in, but that's the way the community runs here. Is we don't walk. It seems to be you want to go from one place to another. They get in the car and they drive 2 blocks.
Well, and those side roads didn't make walking any easier.
No, you didn't want to walk those roads. No.
But now, now it's set up where you have an entrance point and you have an exit point. And I just noticed today, turning into this new and improved entrance into Crispelli's off the new and improved access to Powers Road, there's a really nice left-hand turn. There's a lane. You get out of traffic. There's a light. It gets you in. It gets you out. It's so much better.
Right. It is, and you don't have that side road that used to be a problem. It was problematic it was not even potholes; it was craters. So it's been a long ways. I've seen a lot of things change. I was on the planning commission back in the '90s, and a lot of the developments have been redeveloped. And I think that there's a long-term plan for this corridor. We want to improve it. one of the complaints I've heard from a lot of the people over the years is that we really don't have any kind of entertainment or real things here in West Bloomfield. That at 9 o'clock, when the lights go off, the lights go off. There's nothing here. People go elsewhere. So I'm hoping that in the future more things come here. There used to be theaters here. There used to be a bowling alley here. People used to do things. Those are all gone now. We need to kind of bring something back. And I think that the improvements that we've made in these various small shopping centers, as you go by, they're beautiful. I mean, we've figured out how to do the lighting correctly, the landscaping correctly, how to get egress in and out. And
well, you talked about bowling centers and theaters. You mentioned two sectors that require a lot of traffic, a large volume of traffic moving in and moving out. And do you think a contributing factor to those businesses going away was just a difficulty in the roadway that we had, providing the ingress and degress, is that the word, to get people in and out of those?
Ingress, right. Well, no, it really had to do about money. It was the value of the property.
All right.
The bowling alley was converted to a bookstore. The price was unbelievable, and our theaters have become a workout gym.
Yeah, I mean, we love the gym. So I mean, it's another great facility.
Right.
There. Do you think that this new roadway will create an economic boom along this stretch of highway from 14 to 15 on the new Orchard Lake Boulevard, and will help businesses thrive here?
Well, that was the theory behind this, was that if we made a nice boulevard, it had a nice look to it, that people would come here. A lot of people avoided the area because the traffic was just horrible. Now you can come up and down Orchard Lake Road, and it moves. You can get where you need to go, and hopefully it will bring more business to what we have here.
I know you've been really involved in the Orchard Lake Fine Arts Festival that we've had here every year, and I know a lot of people in the community really look forward to it. And let's be honest, and it's been difficult. It was difficult to manage it the way things were laid out here before. I think this is I'm really excited about how this space here, right by Crispelli's, and where we're going to do the art fair again this year, art festival this year. I think it's going to work out great. The way this is reconfigured now should create a much better opportunity on Powers Road to hold events.
Well, also this shopping center win right here, the owners have been very courteous and very kind to the art show in the past.
Absolutely.
And they now have, instead of having an entrance off of the side road that you have to come in, they now have two over here on Orchard Lake Road. During the art fair, they'll close off the one up there on the side road because you can't have traffic coming through the art show. But they've been very kind to the art show, and we're looking hopefully again that they will do this. One of the things that I was involved with on the road committee is that there was a swag into the road on that side road at one time. Sure. And the owners here had given the property at that time to have that take place. They lost some property. And so when I talked with the owner back when, I got involved and said, gee, I'd like to straighten that road out and try to give this gentleman back his corner, because he would like to do something potentially on the corner that's there now. So we'll see what happens. Maybe another business will show up out there on the outlot. But
we're getting deep in the weeds here, but the reality is we have a new roadway that, at least from all outward appearance, should make it a ton easier.
Oh my gosh!
To get from Middle Belt and Northwestern Highway to Maple and Haggerty in the evening, and vice versa in the morning. Do you think it's going to work out better?
Time will tell. I don't have that crystal ball. We're just hoping
it
does.
All right. Well, but I can tell you from my driving of the roadway, it's a ton better than I can ever remember it, having grown up here. So I'm really excited about it. And I'm really excited about having this boulevard and the sense of a new center for West Bloomfield. I know that some people call it a downtown. Whether we call it a downtown or it is at least a center of business and activity that is set up better for the businesses, better for those of us that are consumers, and hopefully give us an opportunity to have a business center that is much more functional. At the very least, I think we're going to get that.
Yeah, that's what we call it, a business district, and sure. It really It's thriving. I mean, all the way from down to 14 Mile Road, all the way up to 15. If you remember 10 years ago, a lot of things have changed. The facades have changed. There's just a lot of things happening. The new dealership, not a new one, but a rebuilt one down
Sure.
here. It's there, and it's just, I've been here 31 years, Dave, and I've seen a lot of changes in the 31 years. So I love West Bloomfield. I think a lot of people have moved here because they love it. It's a very diversified community, and there's a lot of diversified businesses that are here, and I think that the future will get stronger for West Bloomfield, especially now all the roadways will be done. One more mile on Maple,
Sure.
and I think the intersection of Maple and Middle Belt's supposed to be worked on. And other than that, the complaints that people had for so many years about the rough roads, thank you so much for being so patient, because by the end of next year, all of our roads will be all redone. So it'll be great.
Well, and a lot of work. We heard from Marshall Labadie earlier as we really got into the nitty-gritty of this, and a ton of work, a million details, from the lighting to the landscaping to the roads to the traffic flow to the insight you provided us with regard to the roundabout, no roundabout, initial challenges coming to a deal, resulting in something that I think everyone feels is really good now. It isn't easy. It's not easy getting there, is it?
No, it is not. It's a tough way.
All right. Larry Brown, hang in there a minute. We're going to take a quick break. We are broadcasting live at Crispelli's on Orchard Lake Road. We are just south of 15 Mile. You're driving by or driving on the all-new Orchard Lake Boulevard, which extends from the roundabout at 14 Mile to 15 Mile. That includes a beautiful new, very easy to navigate intersection at 15 Mile Road. It really, from my perspective, it's really incredible. We're delighted to be here celebrating it today. We're going to talk to Suzanne Levine in a little bit, the Executive Director of the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. We'll hear her thoughts about how this impacts business. Her chamber is right here, right around the corner from here. She's right on this corridor. And we'll talk a little bit about what this all means from a business standpoint. Steve Kaplan, our Township Supervisor, stops by along with other key elected officials, Debbie Binder, our clerk, Terry Weingarten, our treasurer. We'll have officials from Oakland County, the Road Commission for Oakland County here, and then our ribbon cutting will actually happen. We'll do it live on TV and on the radio at 11:30. So we invite you to stick around. It's a 20-degree high today. So bundle up. Still snowy on the roads. Currently about 13 degrees in West Bloomfield. As I look out the window here, Larry, at Crispelli's, what a beautiful day. Not a cloud in the sky. That fresh snow looks pretty nice, doesn't it?
It's beautiful.
All right, if you're listening as you drive by, honk your horn. We've had a lot of people do that already. It's nice to have you with us this morning. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes more with Larry Brown as our live broadcast from Crispelli's continues here on 89.3 WBLD, the all-new Lakes FM. You're watching Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
Civic Center TV is your home for everything Greater West Bloomfield. Here you can tune into community programming such as our weekly news magazine show, The Splash, as well as coverage of local events and meetings in Kego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, Orchard Lake, and West Bloomfield. You can also watch all of your local programming online anytime at civiccentertv.com. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
You're watching Civic Center TV, television that's close to home. I guess it's our turn. 89.3 WBLD, the all-new Lakes FM. We're live here at Crispelli's. I'm Dave Scott, the General Manager of Civic Center TV and WBLD. It's really good to be with you today. Thank you for joining us. If you're in the area, we invite you to stop by as our live broadcast continues from Crispelli's, the actual ribbon cutting of this road that you've been driving on that's now essentially done. Still some things to do, but the roadway is certainly done. The ribbon cutting for Orchard Lake Boulevard with all the dignitaries happens at 11:30. If you're in the area, we're going to do it right here in front of Crispelli's. We'll broadcast it live here on the radio. And we're recording all this for Civic Center TV. you'll be able to watch everything we've done in the coming days. So we thank you very much. If you're driving around the area, still snowy roads, a lot of snow in the parking lots, and on the back roadways. Main roadways are plowed out pretty good. But give yourself a little extra time. Be safe. There's still a lot of snow on the roads here in West Bloomfield. 9 inches of snow fell last night. And as we were coming in here to Crispelli's, we were loading in, and every 10 minutes we'd have to get the snow shovel back out to get the snow off the ground. So it's been crazy. I'm here with Tyler Keefe, who works so hard to make the radio and TV work well, and we appreciate his effort. John Atwater, new to our team, who's over there by the camera and doing a really good job keeping an eye on the pastries and consuming some of them himself. And Larry Nyland with a cup of coffee and a scarf, hardworking to make all the things work here. We appreciate. I've got a bad cord here, guys. You might want to change that when we go to break. But I appreciate the whole crew. Also with us, Larry Brown, a former township trustee, very involved in this road project as it was planned. And I always, when I get a chance to see Larry, I want to thank him because he was a longtime member of the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission, which operates this radio and TV operation. And Larry instrumental in the construction of our still relatively new television and radio studio. And the campus of Shaco Elementary, the former Little Green School, I like to call it, and now called the Green Media Center. So, Larry, thank you for all the hard work you've done for us at TV and radio and for the community as a whole.
Thank you for that, and I really appreciate that, Dave. So we were talking a little bit about the corridor, and there's just one last thing that people always talk about. It's like building a home. When you build a home, you put up the structure of the home, you have the 2x4s, and then you have all the walls, but you don't realize once you put the drywall up, the only thing you see is the finished product, and that's what it looks like. And so when the corridor is all done, with the lighting that's been picked out and the type of foliage that'll go up there, this is something that has been going on a long time. I know that that was one of the things we were concerned with. What would it look like? Do we keep it simple to make it easy? But there was a lot of things that went into this, even back to the days of the mid-'90s when Marcy Montanti and myself were on the Planning Commission. We put together what was called the Orchard Lake Road Concept Design, which is this thing here. And we came up with what we thought would be a great idea of the different types of trees and foliage and so on. And although some of that's in it, we had additional meetings and came up with the way the different shopping centers would appear along the corridor. We wanted to have a concept that would carry through the entire corridor. And it isn't just West Bloomfield. Orchard Lake, what we were concerned with is how does, when you get off the expressway from 12 Mile all the way up to Telegraph, there is a plan on how things should look, different types of entranceways and what they would look like, and the types of foliage. So if one goes up to like Hego or Orchard Lake, there are commonalities of what they decided to use in their look. I think Hego is they have like brick walls along some of their shopping centers, the type of lighting, and it just makes things look a lot nicer. So hopefully, as they travel up and down this new great corridor, I'm so happy that it's here, that when we finish it off, it'll look beautiful, so that when people come up and down it, it'll be an aesthetic that makes you feel very comfortable and beautiful to the eye.
Well, right now it's kind of like a new building or a new home that's been completed and not really entirely landscaped yet, and maybe one that is finished this time of year with a blanket of snow covering up a lot of dirt. But as springtime comes, and we talked to Marshall Labadie about this earlier, we've got these beautiful median areas in the center that will be landscaped. We've got lighting. Certainly all of the functional traffic lights and things that'll make it easier for cars and pedestrians to get through here are as attractive as they can be and are modern. And I think it's really important that it all looks great. But in addition to that, Larry, it functions great. And as we were talking off the air, and I go back and I think about it now, and I think about Orchard Lake Road, what a vital roadway it is, especially, the Northwestern Highway was never extended because people in West Bloomfield didn't want it running right through and dividing the community.
Correct.
Understandable.
Correct.
Understandable, and it makes sense. From a pure traffic standpoint, it's tough, though, right? Because it would have been easier.
It was a nightmare.
Purely from a traffic standpoint. But it very made sense to not build that through. M5 corridor, same thing. Very difficult to get built what we have now to get traffic from there to northern Oakland County and finally connect up there. And that's only, that is another piece of roadway that had there been no other concerns from a community standpoint, and you're just talking, getting cars from point A to point B, that would be built all the way to M59, and that's not all that easy to navigate. So that makes this roadway here, there really aren't that many ways to get from here, to northern Oakland County. You're going to go through these neighborhoods.
Right.
Orchard Lake Road is absolutely critical to making that. And you think about the way Orchard Lake Road is now, so many improvements. I mean, I remember it when it was 2-lane road the whole way. You go south.
So do I, yeah.
It's in really good shape now. I mean, well beyond 696, right? You go down into Farmington Hills. It's a nice 4-lane highway, well down into, I would think, almost all the way to Grand River, just thinking off the top of my head, right?
It's been all redone.
Right. And then when you think of Orchard Lake Road north of 15 Mile, you still have, at least you got 4-lane highway running up through there and doing the best you can to get to Pontiac Trail, where then you got the lakes and things to consider. You can only do what you can do in that space around the lakes, right?
Right.
But having this section, the most critical, not at its peak capability to move traffic, with all that traffic dumping off Northwestern and wanting to go north and wanting to go west. I mean, I'm stating the obvious, but I mean, what a terrible bottleneck, and now what a huge benefit when all the other final little projects that you talked about moments ago on Maple and others are done. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be easy to get to work and get home, but man, it's going to be a lot better.
And we knew that this, when we talked to the road commission, this is a cut through community. People drive through our community, so the impact of the traffic isn't us; it's other people driving through the community. So that's what we're trying to alleviate, is how do we move that in a safe and quicker manner, because the people who live here don't want to have all those bottlenecks, and it's
right. Well, it's a headache for me when I drive from my home at 14 and Orchard to the Green Media Center and Walnut Lake Road, and and I'm the local driver. But yes, you're right. You got guys and gals leaving work in Southfield who live in Commerce Township and live in White Lake and live in Waterford, and that they got to come through our community to get to where they want to go to. And we don't have like a 690. They're really, I mean, I'm not the road expert, and I'm not saying anything isn't obvious. It sure would have been nice if we had like a 696 getting from the south to the north here, but you know. But this is pretty darn good. This is really going to help.
Yeah, this is going to help a lot. It's going to move traffic, and it's going to move it safer. That's the whole thing.
Is there a commercial benefit? I know we're really a residential community, but there's probably some upside to having some of that traffic coming through this beautiful corridor, and likely businesses will want to be here, and people will stop and pick up dinner on their way home, and maybe buy a sofa or come into Crispelli's or stop at the gym, or go to the Stage Deli or wherever they want to stop.
I think, Dave, what we need to do at this point is West Bloomfield needs to do more of a marketing advertising to try to bring people to our community and what is here. There are a lot of people who have no idea what's here. So if we do some kind of an advertising or marketing from the township level, maybe, that says, it's like a lot of other towns do. And they say, come to this, come to that. We have a great community. There's lots of things to do here. So maybe that will help to bring the people. At least there won't be a bottleneck getting here. That's the one thing. So.
No, it's and during the construction, it was,
it was horrible.
It was terrible. We all endured that. And if for nothing else today, besides having something that's really great here, if for nothing else, I mean, what a great opportunity to celebrate having all that work done, because it was tough on all of us, the last year.
I will tell you, I want to give kudos to the Oakland County Road Commission. They started this project in July, and in 5 months got this done. And that's tough to do. And even Maple Road, they're also doing that at the same time. They're meeting most of their deadlines, and it's happening. So,
well, Larry, I'm going to give you a chance to get a cup of coffee. Thank you so much for joining us today It's really good to talk to you. Do you have any final thoughts about this project, this day?
I'm looking for the spring when I can see things. It's funny, Dave, when we did the corner up here last year, it was a miserably cold day like this, and I said maybe they'll do it in the spring when it's warm. But here we are at a 13-degree day, dedicating the road. But there's no better time than now, and I'm so excited about.
I don't know that anyone planned on a 9-inch snowfall the night
No.
before, but I tell you what, if they picked a much better day today. Had it been yesterday, we would have had our hands full.
Probably would have canceled it. So.
Right. Larry, let me again thank you for all the work you've done on behalf of the Cable Commission. We wouldn't have the ability to do this broadcast today had you not made a contribution. Thank you for your contribution as a West Bloomfield Township Trustee, and thank you for having the vision and the skill to work with the county many, many years ago to take what was handed to us and transform that into something that was much better and certainly worked much better in the interests of those of us that live, work, and travel through West Bloomfield, and we really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks,
right.
Dave.
Larry, thank you very much. Larry
Take care.
Brown.